Dear students, this is my third class on the development of the central nervous system. At the end of this class, you will be able to explain the development of the thalamus and the hypothalamus from the diencephalon. You will also be able to describe the development of the cerebral hemispheres. You will learn what is corpus striatum, where is it formed, and what is its fate in the developing embryo. Also, you will learn what is internal capsule and external capsule of the brain. You will know how the different layers of the cerebral cortex are formed, and also what are the cerebral commissures and what is their function. Now coming to the prosencephalon. You know prosencephalon is one of the brain vesicles, primitive brain vesicles. Now with development, the prosencephalon, it subdivides into telencephalon and diencephalon. I am sure you can identify the telencephalon and diencephalon. The orange color, it indicates the mesencephalon, and the green color, it is representing the rhombencephalon, the three primitive brain vesicles. Now the telencephalon in future will form the cerebral hemispheres, corpus striatum, hippocampus, etc. And the cavity of the telencephalon will form the lateral ventricles of the brain on either side. The diencephalon in future will form the thalamus, hypothalamus, epithalamus, etc. And the cavity of the diencephalon will form the third ventricle. You must remember that in prosencephalon part of the neural tube, the alar plates, they accentuate and the basal plates, they gradually regresses. I am not going in detail about what is alar plate and what is basal plate, and I am sure you remember. Now coming to the developments that occur in the diencephalon. So I have already told you the diencephalon, it develops from the median portion of the prosencephalon. The diencephalon, it presents with a roof plate, two lateral walls which will be formed by the two alar plates and a floor plate. The roof plate of the diencephalon, it is lined by a single layer of ependymal cells which is covered on outside by vascular mesenchyme. Now together these two layers, they give rise to the choroid plexus of the third ventricle. And the most caudal part of the roof plate of the diencephalon will form the pineal gland. Now let us see what are the developments that will occur in the lateral walls of the diencephalon. I told you the diencephalon, it has got two lateral walls. So this picture is showing the right lateral wall of the diencephalon. Now with development, it is seen that the lateral walls of the diencephalon becomes thickened. Gradually two groups appear which are called the hypothalamic sulcus and the epithalamic sulcus. By their appearance, these two groups divide the lateral wall of the diencephalon into three parts. Look at the picture. The central part, it forms the thalamus. The part above, it forms the epithalamus, and the part below the thalamus forms the hypothalamus. So this is how the thalamus, hypothalamus and epithalamus, they develop in the diencephalon. That means they develop on the lateral wall. That means that would be present on the right side as well as on the left side, and in between them lies the third ventricle of the brain. Now as development continues, the thalamus, it was the middle portion in between the epithalamic sulcus and the hypothalamic sulcus. So with development, the thalamus gradually projects into the lumen of the diencephalon. Subsequently, both the right and left thalamus, they fuse in the midline, forming what is called massa intermedia or interthalamic connexus or interthalamic adhesion. As for the hypothalamus, the part below the thalamus, it regulates visceral functions including sleep, digestion, body temperature and emotional behavior. I told you the caudal part of the roof of the diencephalon will form the pineal gland, which is also known as the epiphysis cerebri. Now the pineal gland, it develops as a small diverticulum from the roof of the third ventricle, as you can see in the picture. The cells of the diverticulum, they proliferate to fill its lumen and form a solid structure. That solid structure is called the pineal gland. Now the pineal gland, it secretes the hormone melatonin that helps regulate biological rhythms such as sleep and wake cycles. Secretion of melatonin is inhibited by light and is triggered by darkness. Now coming to the development of the pituitary gland, it is observed that the pituitary gland, it develops from two sources. First source occurs as an outpocketing of the stomodium or oropharyngeal membrane, which is called the Rathke's pouch. The orange color in the diagram, it shows the Rathke's pouch. And the second source is a downward extension of the diencephalon, which is called the infundibulum. The blue color downward extension, it represents the infundibulum. Now with development, the Rathke's pouch grows towards the infundibulum and loses its connection with the oral cavity. And ultimately, as development continues, it forms the anterior lobe of the pituitary gland, which is also known as adenohypophysis. A small extension from the anterior lobe goes and surrounds the stalk of the infundibulum to form the pars tuberalis of the pituitary gland. The posterior wall of the Rathke's pouch, the orange color in the diagram, its posterior wall, it develops into the pars intermedia part of the pituitary gland, and the infundibulum, which grows from the diencephalon, it gives rise to the stalk as well as the posterior lobe of the pituitary gland, which is also known as neurohypophysis. This is how the pituitary gland, it develops in the developing embryo. Now coming to the telencephalon, I have already told you the telencephalon, it comprises of two lateral outpocketings called the cerebral hemispheres and a median portion called the lamina terminalis. The cavity of the median portion forms the extreme anterior portion of the third ventricle. You look at the diagram below, so you can see the extent of the third ventricle. That means the cavity of the median portion forms the extreme anterior portion of the third ventricle. The lamina terminalis, it represents the cephalic end of the primitive neural tube, and also it corresponds to the site of the closure of the anterior neuropore. Remember the anterior neuropore and the posterior neuropore? I told you the anterior neuropore closes on day 25th. So this is the site. The lamina terminalis is the site where the anterior neuropore closes on day 25th of development. You can also look at the diagram and you see that the two lateral ventricles communicate with the third ventricle through the interventricular foramina of Monro. As for the development of the cerebral hemispheres, the cerebral outpocketings, the telencephalic outpocketings, they appear at about 5th week of development. And the lower part of these outpocketings, which represents the future cerebral hemispheres, the lower part of these hemispheres, they grow rapidly and bulge into the lumen of the lateral ventricle and also into the floor of the foramen of Monro. This rapidly growing region of the lower part of the cerebral hemispheres, it gives a striated appearance on transverse section, and so it is called the corpus striatum. I am sure you can identify the region corpus striatum. So it develops on the basal part of the cerebral hemispheres on either side of the midline. The region where the medial wall of the hemisphere is attached to the roof of the third ventricle, the wall is very thin due to absence of neuroblasts. So this part of the wall, it is lined by a single layer of ependymal cell and is covered by vascular mesenchyme, and together they form the choroid plexus of the lateral ventricles as shown in the diagram. So the choroid plexus will be formed by the region of the medial wall which is very thin and is devoid of neuroblasts. The part of the medial wall of the hemispheres immediately above the choroid plexus, it thickens to form the hippocampus. It is called hippocampus as its shape resembles a shape of a seahorse. The hippocampus, it plays an important part of the limbic system. It plays important role in the consolidation of information from short-term memory to long-term memory and in spatial memory that enables navigation. The cerebral hemispheres, they grow and expand rapidly with development, and as they expand, they cover the lateral aspect of diencephalon, mesencephalon and upper part of the metencephalon as shown. The two cerebral hemispheres, they also meet in the midline, flattening their medial surfaces. And this expansion also leads to the formation of the different lobes of the brain, the frontal, parietal, occipital and temporal. Now let us see what are the developments that will occur in the corpus striatum. Remember the corpus striatum? So the corpus striatum, it develops bilaterally in the floor of the cerebral hemispheres. So due to passing of a bundle of ascending and descending fibers through it, the corpus striatum, it gets divided into two parts. The dorsomedial part is called the caudate nucleus and the ventrolateral part is called the lentiform nucleus. And this bundle of fibers which divides the corpus striatum into two parts is called the internal capsule of the brain. Few fibers that pass lateral to the lentiform nucleus constitute the external capsule of the brain. Because the developing cerebral hemispheres enshrouds the lateral ventricles completely, that means on all sides, it is also referred to as the pallium. The cerebral hemispheres are also referred to as the pallium. Now this pallium has two regions, paleopallium and neopallium. The paleopallium or archipallium, it lies immediately lateral to the corpus striatum. You look at the diagram, you will see the paleopallium which lies lateral to the corpus striatum, and it forms only a small part of the cerebral cortex. On the other hand, the neopallium, it lies between the hippocampus and the paleopallium, and this neocortex or neopallium, it undergoes very great expansion and form the major part of the cerebral cortex. and it is involved in higher functions like sensory perceptions, generation of motor commands, conscious thoughts, spatial reasoning, and language. On the other hand, the pallium, it relates to the sense of smell. Now let me tell you how the different layers of the cerebral cortex are formed. In the neopallium, waves from neuroblast migrate to the subpile position and develop into mature neurons. Now, when the next wave of neuroblasts arrive, they migrate to the first layer and reach the subpile position. That means the first layer is pushed to be the second layer. And this explains why early formed neurons occupy a deep position in the cerebral cortex, while the new ones lie more superficially. The new neuroblasts, they go and occupy the subpile position, thereby pushing the neurons which have arrived there earlier into a deeper position. Different areas of the cerebral cortex show spatial cell types. For example, in the motor cortex, large number of pyramidal cells are present, whereas in the sensory cortex, majority of the cells are the granular cells. And you already know in the cerebral cortex, the gray matter is located peripherally, and the white matter, which is comprised of axons of the neurons, it lies beneath the cortex. So what is gyrification? Initially, the surface of the cerebral hemispheres, they are smooth. But towards the final part of fetal life, the surface grows so rapidly that many convolutions called gyri, separated by fissures called sulci, appear on the surface. The sulci and gyri increase the surface area of the cortex without increasing the cranial size. So, the sulci and gyri, they appear towards the final part of the fetal life, approximately between the 24th and 38th weeks of development. So, what is insula? As each cerebral hemispheres grow, growth in the cortex overlying the corpus striatum slows. You remember the corpus striatum? It develops on the basal part of the cerebral hemisphere. So in that region, the growth is occurring at a slower rate as compared to the rest of the cerebral hemisphere. As a result, the area between the frontal and temporal lobes, it becomes depressed, and this depressed area, that means this is the area over the corpus striatum, and this depressed area is known as the insula. At birth, the insula is completely hidden in the depths of the lateral sulcus of the cerebral hemispheres, and this is due to growth of the adjacent lobes at a faster rate as compared to the insula. Now, what are commissures? Commissures are fiber bundles that cross the midline and connect the corresponding areas of the two cerebral hemispheres. Most of these fiber bundles, they make use of lamina terminalis to close. I hope you remember lamina terminalis. So it is the region which represents the distal part, distal end of the primitive neural tube. So the first commissure to appear in the embryo is the anterior commissure, and this anterior commissure connects the olfactory areas of the two cerebral hemispheres. The second commissure to appear is the hippocampal or fornix commissure, and it connects the hippocampus to the mammillary body and the hypothalamus. The third commissure to appear is the corpus callosum, and this corpus callosum, it connects the non-olfactory areas of the two cerebral hemispheres. The other three cerebral commissures to appear are the posterior commissure and habenular commissure. These two commissures, they are formed in relation to the stalk of the pineal gland, whereas the optic chiasma, the last commissure, it appear in the rostral wall of the diencephalon. Now, optic chiasma, it contains fibers from the medial half of the retina. You can look at a diagram. So, optic chiasma contains fibers from the medial half of the retina, and these fibers cross the midline to join the optic tract of the opposite side. The remains of the lamina terminalis form the septum pellucidum in the brain. Septum pellucidum will be lying in between the two lateral ventricles. So, summary of this class is that the two cerebral hemispheres develop from telencephalic outpocketing. Diencephalon give rise to the thalamus, hypothalamus and epithalamus. The cavity of the cerebral hemispheres form the fourth ventricle, whereas of the diencephalon forms the third ventricle. The different lobes of the brain are formed due to rapid growth and expansion of the cerebral hemispheres. The bundle of ascending and descending nerve fibers passing through the corpus striatum constitute the internal capsule. The internal capsule, it divides the corpus striatum into caudate nucleus and lentiform nucleus on either side. The commissures connect the corresponding areas of the two cerebral hemispheres, and the first commissure to appear is the anterior commissure. Neocortex forms a major part of the cerebral cortex, which is concerned with higher functions, and sulci and gyri appear towards the late fetal life, approximately between 24 and 38 weeks of development. Thank you.